After a resounding victory for the BJP, Prime Minister Modi is all set to be sworn in for the second consecutive term on the 30th of May. And if reports are to be believed, some world leaders could be invited for it, making it an event bigger than the 2014 ceremony when heads of governments of the SAARC countries were invited. What are the immediate challenges that the Prime Minister must address? The major hurdles and the big opportunities. Will the presence of leaders from neighbouring countries be the very right move in India's scheme of things when it comes to taking India ahead from here on? That's what we're going to be talking about over the next few minutes. And joining me live right now is Professor S.D. Muni, former diplomat, Dr. Sreeram Chaulia, expert on international affairs, and Mr. Gopal Krishna Agarwal of the BJP. Thank you all very much. Dr. Chaulia, how are you looking at all this speculation ahead of the swearing-in ceremony? The ticklish issues like the invitation to invite or not to invite an Imran Khan, but also at the same time continuing with the Prime Minister's image of being very comfortable when it comes to dealing with world leaders, sharing a personal rapport, maintaining good ties, and basically stressing more on stability in the region.
Well, Sana, this is going to be much more global, I believe, the second term and the second swearing in. As you know, the first time, 2014, was limited to South Asian neighbors only. But from what we are hearing, it's going to go to Netanyahu, to Putin, and many other world leaders beyond our region. And I think that's a symbolic gesture.
Okay, Dr. Chaulia, you weren't with us before. Let me just interrupt you. Professor S.D. Muni, when I asked him this question, he expressed his reservations because he made a very valid point, saying that it's not as simple as you send out an invite. You have to have a certain sense of confirmation from the other side, or else it could turn out to be an embarrassment for India. So sending out invites blindly, perhaps to a Donald Trump, who the Prime Minister is anyway is going to meet in Osaka in Japan in August, whether he's going to come or not, whether he's going to turn down the invitation, all these things must also be kept in mind. Please continue. I just wanted to update because you joined us a bit later.
Oh, sure. I mean, there was a bit of a gap last time when we invited Trump for Republic Day and he didn't turn up and he cancelled. So that, of course, is there. But I'm sure they have done some groundwork, and it's not impossible to find some notable figures beyond South Asia who would be willing to come. And there's no harm in doing that, because it should show that we are not just a subcontinental power. So there's no, I think, gainsaying the fact that we have reached a certain stage in world affairs. We are an emerging power, and we want to make this, a grander thing than what was the case in 2014. Because otherwise, what we are saying is the same set of, neighbors turn up, then it's not, in my view, a big leap forward. So I think we should think bigger. The mandate is bigger. India is bigger in 5 years. Modi is stronger, and our aspirations are much higher. We want to become a great power, or in the Prime Minister's words, a leading power. So I think we should exert ourselves to try and do a real show. And in fact, in the 21st century, it's not just the back channel, as William Burns recently wrote an interesting book about diplomacy. It's about social media, and it's about creating a buzz in the world with a new term. And I think Modi is the kind of politician, Sana, I believe, who's not looking at this as his 6th year of his prime ministership. He's going to look at this, the mindset is different. He's going to look at it as the first year of a second term. So there has to be some freshness, some new initiative, some kind of a, grand start. And it will also bring a lot of prestige and, news media coverage if more leaders turn up.
Right.
So I think it's an excellent idea, and they should pursue it. Of course, not make public. We are not going to announce who we invited and who turned down.
Mr. Gopal, okay, let's just ask
who
the
has
BJP
confirmed.
itself. Prime Minister, right now, his cavalcade has arrived at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. This is the exact spot, in fact, in 2014, where the oath-taking ceremony was held. And it was grand, but this time, if you go by what Dr. Chaulia is saying, it must be, and it should be, and it will be on a much grand scale than what we've seen the last time. Closing comments, Professor S.D. Muni?
No, I agree. I told you earlier also that They must widen the scope from South Asia to other countries. And as Sreeram also said rightly, that we have performed a democratic feat. So there may be an effort to see that wider world realizes what we are moving towards.
All right, Dr. Chaulia, I'm so sorry, I have 30 seconds. Please make your closing comments. Do you agree with what Professor Muni and the other panelists have just said?
Sana, I'll just close by saying that, Prime Minister's during the election campaign, he said this election is a turning point in India's rise in the world. And, he's a showman, and to good effect, he has raised our soft power and he has raised our convening power. The fact that so many heads of state visit our country, not just Delhi, but across the country, we have now spread out the geography of our hosting in the diplomatic terms. So I think the more the merrier, the more let more heads of state and heads of government come, dignitaries come. And it's not just, symbolic, it's much beyond that. It's a declaration of our intent that we want to engage much bigger and on a much broader scale in the world.
Well, though the External Affairs Ministry and the sources there not telling us anything, but we expect them to be working on an overdrive and trying to get confirmations from as many leaders from the region and outside of it to make them a part of this mega swearing-in ceremony that perhaps the BJP, the NDA is planning on the May 30th. Thank you so much. Pleasure having you, Professor S.D. Muni, as always on the show. Dr. Sreeram Chaulia, Mr. Gopal Krishna Agarwal and Dr. Ramesh Babu. Thank you all very much.